All right, let's be honest. The vast majority of monitors out there are some real bottom of the barrel stinky trash. So when I actually stumble upon something with my big toe that's decent, yeah, it's pretty shocking, guys, but that's exactly what we're doing today. We're stumbling over and through this review of the Bimawen 15.6 inch. Wait a minute, before you leave, I know it's not a 27 inch or 32 inch monitor. I get it, it's really small, but I do highly suggest you stick around for the rest of this review. I do love these smaller monitors for second displays. I think it's a way better option than using another larger display, especially considering this is a 4K glossy OLED one, which means it's gonna be incredibly crisp. And I also believe, unless I'm going crazy here, that it's using a regular RGB layout. So it's really clear. In fact, it might be the most clear display I've ever seen in my life. Now, this is a 3840 by 2160, 60 hertz. Yeah, it's not 120 hertz, so I wouldn't be doing any serious gaming on this. 15.6 inch, 16 by 9, AMOLED, 1 millisecond response time, touchscreen display, which I'll be honest, guys, the touchscreen on this is actually shockingly good and very useful, especially if you're going to be using it with a laptop. First, starting off with this stand, this is probably my favorite stand I have yet to see on a portable monitor, as it hides itself when you don't need it, and when you need it, it's really easy to kick back and just set it to the angle that you want. In terms of ports, we're talking about one 3.5 millimeter jack, two Type-C USB, one HDMI, which is actually regular size, and one USB-A. Now, in terms of the price, here's why this is so good, guys. I found this over on AliExpress for just $214, which is absolutely insane. Now, I do also want to mention to you guys that this was sent to me by someone over at AliExpress for a review, so thank you so much for sending it over. However, of course, as always, that's not going to affect my opinion on this, as there are definitely a few issues with the display. It's by no means perfect, but what does it do right? What does it do wrong? Let's go ahead and take a look and see if it's worth your $214, which, to be honest with you guys, just to give you some perspective, most of these touchscreen 4K OLEDs are around what I've seen $300 to $400 to even $500 at times. So this is undercutting them by a huge margin. But first, taking a look at the color, honestly, out of the box, it looks very vibrant and good. However, in terms of accuracy, it's an absolute mess. As you can see on the screen, it does not track the EOTF curve correctly, and the RGB balance is all over the place. However, just with a few tweaks as well as an ICC profile, which if you want access to that, I will have a link to my Patreon, which also gets you access to the Discord and all of the ICC profiles and corrections that I make. I was able to greatly improve upon this in its sRGB mode, but then taking a look at the HDR mode, as this is allegedly an HDR monitor, it does an absolutely terrible job. But in any case, moving on to color volume, and here it's actually very impressive. In the sRGB mode, it does have around 165% BT709, 110% DCI-P3, and 75% BT2020, which is very impressive for a portable monitor. In the HDR mode, it's around the same, but it's a little bit lower. So another reason as to why I definitely would not use HDR on this monitor if given the option. Now, in terms of brightness and 100% window, very impressive, 332 nits. So it's really up there with some of the brightest OLEDs ever created. However, in terms of a 10% window, since this is using AMOLED technology, this is definitely a weakness for this technology, as it's just 379 nits, which is definitely not impressive and falls far short of stuff like, you know, the Neo G8 or even the OLED Samsung S95C, which are using completely different technologies and show their strengths in this region. Now, in terms of a game here, once again, not too impressive, 392 nits peak. So again, it's not going to be a great HDR monitor, as it just lacks the brightness to give you those punchy peak highlights. Now, in terms of the minimum brightness, it does hit 0.00 nits, since it is a OLED display, meaning that you are getting an infinite contrast ratio. So in dark scenes, it can definitely be very good. Now, it does not support any overclocking really, but in terms of latency, it's actually the second worst display I have ever measured. So this is not good to see here, guys. I get this isn't necessarily its main purpose to be used for gaming or anything like that, but even so, I think they could definitely improve here. But since it's so bad, we're not even going to take a look at the motion performance, because it's OLED. It's decent, of course, but it is 60 hertz. It's got a lot of latency, so there's really no point to use it for gaming. Now, in terms of text clarity, Here you can see it's actually pretty good thanks to it being 4K, as well as using what should be an RGB layout, giving you very, very clear text. It definitely looks very, very clear. Now, in terms of the finish, it is using a glossy finish, which looks absolutely fantastic, and the viewing angles are pretty good, although I have noticed AMOLED has some weirdness when you go at certain angles, so it won't be quite as good as something like, say, Quantum.OLED, which does appear to have the best viewing angles I've ever seen. And in terms of uniformity, I didn't see anything noticeably bad, so I wouldn't be too worried about that. So overall, should you buy this display? And I'm going to say, honestly, if you want a 4K touchscreen or just a 4K OLED and you don't even care about the touchscreen capabilities, I do think it is a really good option, because we're talking about a display that, in terms of the price, is actually very good and very competitive with basically any 4K glossy OLED monitors on the market, but you're also getting the additional touchscreen capabilities. Now, you can go ahead and purchase this off of AliExpress for far cheaper than I've seen similar models on any other website. However, do keep in mind when purchasing from AliExpress, first of all, I'm not entirely sure how warranties, returns, or anything like that works, so you may want to check with the individual sellers on there, as well as the website policy before you make your purchase. And also, you do have to keep in mind that shipping times can vary from seller to seller. Now, with this specific item, it was ordered for me and I got it within about a week, so that's actually not too bad at all. However, I have seen items from certain sellers in the past off of AliExpress where the shipping time was in the month, so definitely pay attention to that. Now, if you are going to order stuff from AliExpress, I do believe they are going to be having a sale going on, so I'll have that in the description below next to the link to this item. But again, be sure to check with each individual seller for all the details before making your purchase.